This time on Captain Chaos's laboratory, we're going to be working on the Mr. Christmas World's Fair roller coaster, the Tornado. It says it right there in lights, but the lights are off because it's not plugged in. But this is the Tornado roller coaster, and it has a broken drive belt. When I say drive belt, I'm talking about the belt that runs the cars up and around. So here's the rollers. And if you notice in that groove, there's no belt. That's because it broke. So I'm going to try and show you how to replace it. So this is the belt, or the drive belt, which is what drives the cars up so they can go around back to the bottom and do it again. So I do have the cars. They're over there, so they're out of the way so they don't get broken. And the power supply is over there too, so I'm going to plug it in when we're done. But since the belt is physically not in here, their bottom roller is right there. There's no belt. It should be running up inside that groove. We're going to take it apart and try and fix it. So, Happy Holidays Parts has a video on how to do this. And that's where the belt came from. So we know it's the right belt. See, there's their card right there. I was talking with him over there, because I do talk to Victor over at Happy Holiday Parts quite often. And he was nice enough to send me the replacement gears as well, because he says most of the time when the belt breaks, it breaks the gears. So before I opened this, I waited a week to get the gears. So I had all the parts, just in case. So, going to need a screwdriver. We're going to remove the, and he has a video too. I'll link the video below, but we're going to need a screwdriver. We're going to remove those 6 screws in the bottom. That's where we're going to start. And I'm going to use, because there's a lot of screws that we're going to be taking out, a little plate. So the screws on the inside, you're going to want to make sure it's a magnetic screwdriver. This is already magnetic, but you can add a magnet to it. You can stick a little neodymium magnet on the side. Or if you have a gouger, degouser, one of these tools, you can magnetize your screwdriver. So the 6 screws are out. Now we just need to get the panel to pop free. It is recessed inside of the housing, so we just need to see if I can get a little grip on it to pop it out. Almost. So. And here's the bottom. So you can see the belt is non-existent, the drive belt, because it goes around the roller, and there's the gear. That's the drive gear, and then that's the gear that drives the belt right inside that shroud. Yeah, you can see there's a lot of wires and stuff in the way, just like in his video. Be careful not to break them. Take a picture if you think you're going to, but this isn't the easiest piece to work on. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove all of these screws that basically go around where all this open area is. And there's quite a few of them. Now, they are different than these screws, so they're going to be obvious when you have to put them back in. If you put them in the same container, that they're not the same screw, but all of these are the same screw to each other that we're removing. a little tight, so I'm going to use a handheld screwdriver to at least get them to break free. Yeah. They've never been removed, so they're nice and snug in here. So I'll break them all free, and I'll use the little battery operated guide to remove them all. So there's a lot of screws. There we go. That should be all of them. And I missed one with that, so a little tight, but with this screwdriver, if it's a really tight screw, you can twist it at the same time to help it get more torque to break free. And now you can see, whoops, missed one. So look, now you can see they're all out, but no, I missed a screw. And apparently I missed it with the screwdriver too. Yep, that was right. Yeah, this little screwdriver is great, but it can't handle really tight or stuff that might be Loctited in. So, like so. Now, I'll show you. You can see all the screws are gone. Happy Holly's parts, he has a still shot of all the screws circled with yellow, so that way you can see. So, next we're going to remove the plate for the gear, and then we're going to remove the back plate, or loosen it up some. So, need to remove the screws that are down inside here, and then the screws right here and right here, so we can pull this assembly out, and then of course this assembly here, because these are the rollers that that belt rides on. So a lot more screws, and I mean a lot more screws. This, and this sit over here. Here is the idler pulley, I guess you would say, with it, so it can roll around this and go back up. So I'm going to set that all over on that side, so I know it's the one on the left. Plus the one on the right's got gears attached to it, so a little more obvious. The one on the right's also held with 4 screws, not 2. Nose, pull everything out. So same type of clamp. There's the shroud. There's the other screw. And then here's the other, which has the gear right here. And that's the teeth for the drive for the belt. So now that's out of the way. Now we're going to tip it up. So this has a panel right here, right there, that is removable. It's glued in, so you have to work it out. So I'm going to see what I can do to get it to start to separate. Might need to use a pick. It's the wrong pick. This pick. Just putting tension on it and wiggling it to try and get it to break free. Also going to use a very small screwdriver. Let's try a shorter set of needle nose. It's starting to move. Just take your time. It's moving, but it's not coming out yet. Let's see if I can push it from the bottom. No. I'm going to remove the motor and gearbox. To do that, you're going to probably have to desolder the motor. So you want to mark the motor where the wires go. So I'm going to mark the white wire, put blue on it, and put blue on the motor. So I can desolder the motor, so I can take the whole gearbox out and get it out of the way. Let's fire up the soldering iron. So this is what I've done in previous videos too. You put a mark right there and then a mark right there on the back of the motor. So that way the motor, you know which wire goes where, so the motor not spinning backwards. So while my soldering iron heats up for a second, I'm going to start breaking the gearbox free. Because the gearbox does have to come out. These screws are definitely tight. You don't have to worry about this thing rattling apart. Come on. There we go. Not a high torque screwdriver. Alright, gearbox screw. The other screw fell inside the gears. We'll get that once we get it out. There should be another screw, I believe. Yep, there it is. Just didn't see it. There we go. Soldering iron's finally hot. So when you desolder, put a little solder on your soldering iron. I've mentioned this many a times. That allows for better heat transfer. And then we just touch it to the white wire, and we're going to touch it to the red wire. The reason I didn't mark the red wire is because I marked the white wire. And like so. Like so. Now, the wires are glued to the gearbox. So I'm going to slowly peel the wires off the glue. That's one. That's two. There's 3 and 4. There's 5 and 6 and 7. So you can see the wires are now no longer glued right there. The top mount slides over the standoff, so you kind of pry it up. Turn up the soldering iron. And screw I just pulled out is a screw that holds the roof on to the little building here. I was going to see if that would give me a little bit more play to break the adhesion off of the standoff. It's not. Let's try, see if I can pop it off. There we go. And there's that screw that fell inside the gears. And here's our gearbox assembly. So apparently these gears in here are notorious for cracking, which is why I got a set prior to taking this apart, so I didn't have to let it sit. So we're going to check this out before we put it back in. I can't see anything visually. Now, I'm taking that one screw out, and this should, it's held on by the glue for this little tab that I'm still working on. And no, you can't get it from the bottom. I just checked. There's no access to this little panel on the bottom. So you just got to slowly work on it until it comes free. Yeah, there's nothing there. You have to get this out because this is what to slide the belt on. It's the piece that's removed to put the belt through so it can go around. So you can't leave it in there. But apparently this one's glued on better than the one that Victor had, because it's barely budging. I mean, it's moving, but it's not moving very much. But it's also glued to this roof. I don't like doing it to plastic, but I'm going to have to heat it up a little bit. So let's heat her up. I'm just going to lower it down to the lowest setting, which is 100 degrees Celsius. Wish they had some offset needle nose to get in here better. This metal railing is in the way. Also, the roof has some glue on it too. Definitely want to have to pop some of that glue off there. I have to sit here and work on this piece until I get that little ledge out. So the reason it has to come out, if you didn't catch it, is once you pull this out, you remove the roof and you remove this back plate and this handrail, and you feed the belt, and the belt can't go through because there's no access. So they put this removable panel right here, which you'll see if you own this roller coaster, so you can get the belt, so you can get it back on, because it's not a segmented belt, meaning you can't assemble it. It's already round. You have to just slide her in. So I'm going to continue working on this. Let's see why this isn't separating like it's supposed to. Also, there's a lot of glue that they have right in here in this roof line, right here, and that's also kind of strange. So either it's been worked on before, or this was just one that they made with a lot of adhesive. So bear with me. I'm not going to waste your time while you're watching this for 3 hours. I'm just trying to get one piece to come free. As soon as I get that piece to come free, I'll start the camera back up. I'm going to pause it for just a moment while I work on this. Okay, I'm back. And I got to take it apart, the pieces that were glued. So there's two of these tabs you have to remove. You have to remove one from here and the one that's over here on the roof. To do that, you got to carefully pry up the fence. There's a little bit of glue on the fence on the little posts. There's like 3 posts that have glue. So just take a screwdriver and we'll do it again real fast. Figured since I had to deal with the one, I might as well deal with the other one at the same time. And so you just put your screwdriver in, and then you slowly until it pops up, and then you got your fence. So I don't know if this is a special piece that was made or if it was repaired once before, but everything is got excessive amounts of glue, which is not supposed to have, and it's why I'm having so many problems getting it apart. So this little finger right there where the white one went, and this little finger were just caked in glue. Also, this roof's not supposed to be glued on. Once you pull this finger out, you should be able to slide this roof out without any problems, like so. And it's not. It didn't just come right out. It is glued all the way around. And then once you do all that, this blue piece where it attaches to the roof line all the way around should drop. It doesn't. This thing is massive amounts of glue all on the inside. And I spoke with Suntronics, or Happy Holidays Parts, and he said the same thing. He's like, no, they put a very small dab of glue and that's it. He's like, he's done tons of them and never had a single one have an issue like this one is, where it's just solid glue. So hopefully yours won't be as difficult as this, because I've spent probably more than an hour trying not to break the plastic. So do what you can do. Heat helps, but it doesn't solve it as good as I would hope, because the melting point of the plastic is lower than the glue, where it becomes soft and pliable again. So, but anyhow, lots of tools, lots of work, a couple of razor blades. I've broken them trying to cut the glue seams. So take your time. Hopefully yours isn't like this, but you do have to remove those fingers, and then once the finger comes out, you can remove the rooftop, because you're going to have to remove that too. And the reason, again, you have to remove these two fingers is to get the belt in. You need to be able to pass it through plastic, and that's why these two fingers come out. Light glue is what's supposed to hold it. This one just is extremely heavy on the glue. So either it was a fluke, or it was opened once, or it was just coming apart, and they thought, oh crap, and they went and just slathered it in super glue. Any number of things. But that's why I've been having so many issues. It's not the easiest piece to repair, but it shouldn't be as difficult as this one is. So next we're going to take out the 3 screws and remove the back plate. So I'm going to tip this back on its face. So those are the 3 screws I just removed, and then we're going to remove this. Now the reason I think it may have been repaired is these 3 clips are supposed to hold it in. But if you notice that right there, that's glue. And it's not supposed to be there. So these 3 clips, and there's your rollers for the belt. And it's supposed to just be tension, 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 3 screws. And that right there is super glue, or it's not hot glue. It's a very strong glue. Yeah, it wasn't the easiest to remove. So next, here's your belt. So your belt has different teeth on both sides. So some teeth are closer, some teeth are farther. You need to make sure you put the right teeth. And you can check it by meshing it up with your gear, or you can pull out one of the cars. So and seeing how this tab right there fits into the groove. So it fits into the outer groove, but not the inner groove, because you can flip the belt inside out. So the outer groove is what the car grabs. So the outer groove is the direction we need to keep the belt. So this way. This belt's been curled up for a while, so it's a little springy. We'll put the cars back in here so we don't damage them. I'm going to set them back on the foam. There we go. So now you need to fish this belt through the unit. Hence the reason when you take those pieces out. And this is where it becomes not so fun. Because you got wires in here, we got to clear all the wires. You're going to need a thin needle nose or tweezers to help guide the belt in. And that's why you need that tooth removed, so you can get it around. but we need it to come down. This is where you're going to have to take your time and be patient and not get frustrated, because you got to feed it around and over everything without breaking it, because that's the parts that if you break them, you can't reassemble it. So right now, I'm trying to get it to go over this standoff, which it tries to, and then of course the belt wants to pull itself back over. There we go. See, the problem I'm having here is this is supposed to fully drop. This is still glued and I cannot get it to separate. Every time I try, I notice it's starting to distort the plastic or mar up the plastic. So I was hoping I can get enough stretch to get this in with a screwdriver and a little tension. Like I said, this one for some reason is going to be a little bit more special than the standard one. I'm not really liking how this belt's going in. You also have to be mindful of all these switches and the on-off or the power port, and I'm getting caught up on the wires, which you do not want to damage because there's lots of them. And let's see. Sorry, my nose is running. I'm trying to stop it. It's allergies. Gotta love it. So. Well, doing it this way is going to feed it under the wires. I don't think that's correct. I need to find the picture of how this belt sits in here. The original belt was, of course you saw, wasn't in here, so I don't know if the belt was on top or under. I don't want any of the wires getting caught by these teeth. I mean, these are very aggressive teeth. So give me a second while I go find a picture of the bottom of this thing and find out where the belt placement's supposed to be so I don't break any wires real quick. Like I said, this is a very difficult one. It's very small, fragile, and there's a lot of little wires in the way. So this one, if you do it yourself, just take your time. Don't be afraid to look things up, look for images. they're not designed to technically be repaired, so you just gotta be patient. So I'll be back in just a second while I go find my picture on my phone and see where the belt's supposed to be in relationship to the wires, so I know if I'm tucking it on the right side or the wrong side of the blue plastic. Okay, I looked and I took the belt back out because, yeah, I was doing it wrong. The belt would be on the wrong side of the wires, and that's bad. So to get the belt in, apparently you need to, and I did quickly get this thing to finally break free of its glue, which is, you're supposed to apparently feed it this way so it's on top of the wires, or excuse me, underneath the wires, on top of the base. So then so much easier when you can remove the blue panel because, you know, it's not stuck with the 10,000 pounds of glue they used on this thing. But anyway, enough complaining about the glue. Let's get this thing fed into its grooves and make sure we got good alignment and make sure we're clear. So the wires that concern me are going to be once it gets this in. There we go. That wasn't in all the way. So now it'll be inside the plastic track. Like so. All right. So that part's done. Oh, so you can see the excessive glue there. Got it to break free. Anyhow, so once we put the idlers back in and the drive gear, it's going to lift the belt or lower the belt, since again we're upside down, and it'll clear these wires. It's not going to clear are these wires. These wires, I have no idea how it's supposed to be under these wires. I'm thinking they probably glued the switches in after they installed the belt, because these switches, these are screwed in and these two are glued in. But what I want to do is just to verify. Well, I can't even verify because I know it's going to be wrong. So let's see. Can we unglue and then re-glue those switches in and move them to the other side of the belt? So like I said, this one's a special one because it's not anything like the other versions. All I'm doing is removing the glue. I mentioned this in the past that side cutters, they work pretty good for grabbing as long as you don't crush and cut through them, because the sharp edge will dig into the glue and allow it to come up easier than needle nose. So I'm not cutting anything, I'm just popping the glue off. Where's my smaller one? So be a little more careful with this one because they actually put the wire through the glue. it popped off. That's what I was afraid of. So I'll resolder that on. That'll take just a minute. But I want to get the rest of this glue off. I think it might just be easier to desolder and resolder the wires on so I can move them, because they plastic stake them under the glue, which is where they have plastic pins. They then melt, and once you remove the pins, you can't replace them. So there's a total of 5 wires. So just to make it easier, just going to desolder, move them around the other side of the belt, and then resolder. And that's right here, these 2 and these 3. Do one at a time, you'll know where they go. The purple wires, which is the song selection switch, doesn't matter which one goes where technically, because it's just an interrupter, just interrupts the signal for a second. It's the switch here that makes a difference. So the purple wires are put back on. They're on the right side of the belt. Now I'm going to try and remove the glue from the back of the switch so I can get to the pins, and we're going to move the wires off of this switch around the belt and put them back on. If you're going to solder and desolder, which this one has to because of how they have the wires run, try and get as much of the glue off as possible. The reason being is the soldering iron's hot, it's going to melt the glue and it gums up your tip. So try and remove as much of this glue as you can, just to not gum up the tip of your soldering iron. And then, so on this one, so from the position I'm in, the top of the switch is a red, middle is green, bottom is black. So if you're afraid you're going to forget that it's green in the middle, red on the top, black on the bottom, you just desolder one. And we're going to do the top one first, which is the red. Move it to the other side of the belt, and then we'll pull her back through, so, and then we'll solder it back on. And if you just do one at a time, you don't have to worry about it. The other option is you can do them all at the same time, just take a picture. This is the same process, or similar, that you would have to do as if you had to replace this switch, where you'd have to open it up and then desolder and resolder. Like so. Alright, so now the belt is on the inside of those wires and the outside of all the others. Now we're good. I'll show you close up or closer to the camera. Turn off the soldering iron. There's the belt, and there's the switch and the button. And you can see those wires are now, instead of being captive, I'm trying to look for a good spot to hold it, captive under the belt, they're now off to the side since they're all glued together and bundled. The other one that I saw wasn't, so there's going to be some variations apparently on how this unit is made. So you definitely need a soldering iron no matter what. But now we can put in the drive gear here, the idler here, which will help center the belt, and then we can start reassembling the bottom, because the other idlers are right there, so gotta stretch that up. But before I do anything else, I want to get this back in so we don't break it. Get it to line up to all this plastic. There we go. Make sure she's square. There's that. And there's one more pulley at the bottom, right there. Now, this may be tight where you have to stretch the belt. To stretch the belt, you heat it. You can use a hairdryer or a heat gun on low temperature to stretch the belt so it fits. I think this belt probably going to be stretched because everything else on this thing's gone to, well, it's just not working right. We'll just be nice about it. And I don't even have the tensioner and drive inside yet. So that's the next step. I just want to see if we can get it on and see how it looks. It's not looking too shabby. You definitely want to put these in first, because you can't assemble the bottom and you can't tension the belt properly. Some needle nose. So when you take these out, there's little fingers they fit in. Just make sure you get it back into its fingers and that you have slack in the belt to get the belt into the pulley. So, like so. Let's see if I can use gravity to my advantage. We're going to tip her up. Screws aren't very magnetic. Well, at least the screwdriver bit in the tool isn't. Just do that. Nice and snug. Just gonna pull this backer off. I'm using it for a visual aid. Don't need it yet. Now we're gonna put in the drive gear as well as the belt deflector and the clamp that holds it in place. That's the wrong screw. That's the right screw. Same thing, we're going to need to push a little slack on the inside so we can feed it through. That. Now you want to make sure it's in the right direction. So the aggressive teeth go to the gearbox and the less aggressive teeth drive the belt. So in this case, the less aggressive teeth are down. I'm going to try and do the same thing. I'm going to try and use gravity as an assist to help hold this into its respective spots. Very, very fidgety process. It's not a very balanced unit. The reason I switched to this screwdriver is because it's got a stronger magnetic tip, and I'm trying to get these screws in without them bouncing around. Now, if you don't have magnetic tip screwdrivers and you have some small magnets, you can stick them to the shaft of the screwdriver. I just need to remagnetize those bits. They're getting a little weak. Where'd the other screw go? Awesome. I had 4. That's why the belt came out. That's why a clean workspace is a good workspace, but I'll find it in a minute. I gotta loosen this, get the belt back in. Didn't even pay any attention that it slid out when I was screwing it down. It's a belt guide, this piece of curved plastic. So because this doesn't have a spring-loaded tensioner, like what Limax runs, use a belt guide, so if it starts to get slack, it doesn't fall off and get tangled up in everything inside. Let's get that in there correctly. There we go. This is be working. Just make sure they're snug and don't over torque them to break the plastics, the plastic standoffs. There we go. Oh, these wires are close, but they're not touching. And of course, when we fire it up, we're going to verify we have good clearances and do any adjustments as necessary. But now, you can see why I desoldered and resoldered these wires is because you can see how the belt runs. Just going to put a couple of screws in now to hold it. I don't have to worry about this thing falling apart. I'm going to tighten this one up just a little bit more to take up this slack in the frame. There. And this one. Good. All right, let's make sure that we didn't flip the belt. I don't see any twists in the belt. Okay. Now comes the fun part. Since again, there's no springs on this belt, there's no external tensioner. It's all based on how it's assembled. Now we need to get this thing on, and it's probably going to be too short, meaning it needs to be stretched. Never take your time, take your time. Trust me. It's running through my head a lot right now. Get over the pulley or the idler. Over that one, needs to get inside. It's rolling over on me. Ah, the belt rotated and twisted. Oh. Excuse me for a second. I got a delivery I got to take care of real quick. I got to sign for. Sorry about that. I had a UPS delivery where my laboratory is. I can see the when UPS, post office, FedEx, so on and so forth is coming, and I got a big old box of more broken stuff. So anyhow, feed the pulleys and make sure your belt doesn't twist like mine kept doing. And now we need to get her up on. So we're going to get these 3 clips in and these 3 screws. And that's where the problem's going to be, because I've got pretty much no slack on the bottom. Make sure that all the slack is fed up to the top. Yeah, it is. So now this is where the stretching of the belt comes in. It's really close but it's not close enough. I'm probably going to have to heat it. So you can see how far off it is. So about a ½ inch. So you can heat the belt, lightly heat the belt. Make sure you keep moving it to try and get it so you don't melt the belt. You don't want to melt it. You just want to warm it up a little bit to get a little stretch. But before I do that, I just want to make sure I'm not catching the belt on the purple track here, because that will also cause a problem, and I'll be fighting it. But she keeps wanting to catch. I'm not sure why it doesn't want to listen. It's not even Monday. So, apparently I'm also off, a little low. So we'll lift her back up and then try and keep the belt from getting caught on the purple. Ring around the rosy. This is why sometimes it takes forever to do pieces. I've mentioned it a few times in the past that sometimes it takes a long time to get pieces done. And this is the reason. Because it doesn't want to work, or you encounter more problems. Like the last couple of videos I've been putting up the long ones where when you're working on it, something else breaks, and then something else breaks, and then something else breaks. Or it shows up from UPS in pieces, which I'm hoping the box they just delivered isn't. I don't know what's inside. I will check it later. I just wanted to bring it in after I signed for it. So that way I don't have to worry about it disappearing or having to go to the UPS store to pick it up. Or the UPS depot. Sometimes they take it to either one. There we go. Looks like I may not have to heat it. Actually got a little stretch out of it. These 3 clips are in. There we go. Now it's in. That one was on the edge. And the 3 screw bosses are in. And what was catching me up, because I wasn't paying attention, was this piece here. It has to be on the outside of the metal. It was going on the inside of the metal gusset material. And that was causing the reason why I couldn't get the front to line up. Now let's put the screws in. I really don't want to pop them back off. So this belt still has some stretch. It's because it's not, probably not too old. It was just purchased more recently. Now, let's check the bottom. So on the bottom, it's clearing all the wires except for one. This white wire right here is being caught by the belt. It's supposed to be over here. So what I'm going to do before I fully finish this thing is I'm going to, like they did, I'm going to put some hot glue and kind of pin the wires to the inside. They had hot glue and then they had tape. There's some tape right here. I don't know if you can see the reflection and hear it. And the tape's coming off. So they had the wires taped out of the way of the moving part, which is really close to the belt. I mean, this is crazy. I would have built this slightly different to where the track of the belt, there's no wires around it. The only thing that'd be wired around it would be the wires to the motor. That would be me. But I didn't design it. I didn't make it. I would have changed the circuitry to where maybe the circuitry was higher up inside this house here. What I'm doing now is I'm just going to tighten those 4 screws I put in to help hold the base so I can make sure the alignment of the wires to the belt. The biggest problem with the belt is it's got teeth, so it can easily grab something. like the wires. So now I've snugged those 4 up, and I just double checked those real quick. And I move the white wire over, and it's not near. Nothing there. I'm just checking for interference. So I'm rotating the gear by hand, and you can see the belts moving. So that's good. And because I really don't want to take it apart again, let's just see. So it looks like it grabbed the belt, or the belt grabbed the car, however you want to word it. And where's the drive? Drive's right here. So there we go. Now I'm going to have to back it down because once the car's in, it's locked into the track. But I wanted to ensure I had the right side so it didn't miss. Oh my gosh, they got little smiley faces on these people. That's funny. There we go. So the car is now free. Happy Holly Parts has this little spring if you break it. You got little smiley faces. Or O faces. No, they're all smileys. That's hilarious. The lady in the front doesn't look amused. But anyway. Alright. So that part's relatively done. Now we've got a whole bunch of screws to put in. We're going to put in some of these screws right over in this area. And then we're going to take apart the gearbox and check the gears. So this is going to be another long video. Sorry. I didn't plan on encountering... apparently that's all the screws. The other screws screw into the area where the gearbox and the top is. There's no other screws on this side. That screw the base on. So apparently there's 5. No problem. Alright, so here's the gearbox, and what we want to check is the gears inside here apparently are known for cracking. So we got 4 screws and a stack of diodes. Now, talking with Victor over at Happy Holly Parts, Holidays, always forget that extra S. They're all different, depends on what motor company they use to buy it from. This motor has 3 diodes all stacked on top of each other, probably to help reduce the voltage going to the motor. Oops, that one has a really crappy solder joint, so we're going to solder that one back on. Some don't, some do, some have a resistor. Apparently there's no rhyme or reason. So now, here's our gearbox. So we have the drive pulley, which drives the worm gear, which then goes into our gear reductions. And what that does is reduces the horsepower, increases the torque. And we're going to inspect these gears. Because apparently, and it is broken. So it's a good thing that I waited until I got the parts. See the crack? Look at that. So this gear spins freely of the shaft, which means it wouldn't work. And that's why we're checking it. It's a known issue because apparently what happens is when the belt snaps, the gear breaks, and it's probably from the instant jolt, or the whole unit jolts internally, and it kicks the gear, causing the gear to break. So That's why before I did any of this, because I've had this for a while, a couple of weeks, and I was waiting for that gear kit right there. But now we're going to check the other gears real fast, make sure those are good. Apparently that gear, the one I just threw away, is the most common failure. And then this gear has a D-shaped shaft, so it will never spin on the shaft. It'll just shatter or crack the gear in half. But apparently it's not that common. The most common breakage is one or multiple of these three. So we got one. These are pressed on, so it's going to take a little force. I'm going to use a vise to set it. And then you see the knurling right there? And we're going to press it onto the knurling or tap it on. So by me using the vise, it's acting like a press, and it helps. I have little holes in my jaws of the vise that help align the parts up. To try and keep them centered on squeezing. And all this does is push it in. You can tap it in, but I'm going to push it in, which is a little less likely to break the gear. Because the part that's going to break if it fails is the gear. The nylon is a lot weaker than the steel shaft. So, just using a small benchtop vise. It's only a 6-inch vise. And I'm now pressed on. You can see it's on the shaft. It's not where it needs to be, but that's where I wanted it to start. Now I'm going to tap it on. Now that we've already forced it over the metal drive shaft, or spindle, I've heard it called a few different things, sprocket. I'm now going to tap the metal and put the gear. I have a hole just off camera. You can see my finger right there on the edge of my bench that allows me to set a gear over the hole and slowly tap the shaft through. I keep stopping so I can check the splines, make sure they're not too far. Because going too far makes it really hard to pull it back off. Almost there. A couple more. There we go. Now I'm just going to check the gear to make sure it didn't split, because this happens a lot when they split. Nope, it's good. Put that backwards. So, this isn't fitting. It's not fitting because I need to tap it in just a hair more. So I'm off by probably the thickness of a sheet of paper, and that's all it takes to not make it fit. Like I said, I'd rather be too shallow than too deep, because tapping in further is easy, pulling it back out is hard. And now it fits. So it just took another couple of small smacks from the hammer to get it to line up. And now I need to get this one to line up like so. And now we put the top back on. And if you forget where the fat or flat head screw goes, it goes on the one that's not recessed. There we go. And now I'm just going to go through and double check them, make it a little bit snugger. Again, you don't want to break the plastic. So, like so. And now we're going to pull that back. There's a little notch. They had the gap between the diodes in. And then I'm going to get the soldering iron fired back up again. The diodes are like a one-way check valve for electricity. It only lets electricity flow in one direction, not the other. So you got to make sure you solder it on in the proper direction, or else you will have a door that won't open. And so if yours comes with the diodes, and let's say it has a crappy solder joint, the silver on this, there's a silver band. You can see it right there. And then you would solder it so the silver bands are all pointing towards the motor. Yeah, that's a really bad solder joint. That one's not much better, but this one's like almost non-existent. So usually diodes are used to, like I said, stop electricity from flowing backwards. They're usually not stacked on top of each other like this in a straight line. Hot, 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 hot. I think the reason they stack them is diodes require a voltage to work, so they lose voltage. And since they're not really doing anything here, I'm thinking they were using it as a voltage dropper instead of using something else. And it technically works. I mean, it must have worked. It was in this unit, so. So depending on which, there you go, soldered on, which generation of this you have, you may have a stack of diodes, you might have a resistor, you might have nothing. This here is a smoothing capacitor. They're on pretty much all of Mr. Christmas motors. It takes the noise from the motor out so it doesn't get transmitted through the electronics within here, so it doesn't affect the lights or the sound. The sound mainly because the speaker picks up noise more than the lights will pick up noise. All right, now you got to slide this bad boy in, which is going to be easy without the roof on at the moment. So this is going to go right here, and then this screws to the roof. I wonder if it'd be easier just to screw it to the roof first. I'm really wondering. Probably not. It also helps if I have it in the right direction. So if you're wondering what I was fighting with when I was doing the screwdriver inside here to take this motor out, it's that standoff right there. You see how this slides over it. So it actually slides down the shaft, and because it slides down the plastic shaft, it makes it really hard to get out. So that's how it sits in there. And that's why you have to kick it at an angle and kind of pry on that corner there, is to get it to break free. But yeah, you can't put it on the roof first, and that's because you have to get to the screw that holds this entire little building in, which is underneath the motor. So you just have to fight with it. That screw goes right here from underneath and screws into this little tap. There we go. And then, once I get it to line up, it's off a little bit. There we go. And that screw goes all the way down there. Should be the screw here, actually. Apparently the roof, apparently I pushed it in not far enough. There we go. Keeps wanting to come out. The reason there's only one screw on the top is because it screws here on the bottom. Those are some of those extra screws we had to remove that are still in the tin. There we go. Done. Now we can finagle this piece in. There we go. Oh, excuse me for a second. Turn that off. I got a work call. Be back in just a moment. All right, sorry about that. I'm on call until 4 my time, which is about 2 hours. So I have to take work calls. So anyway, right where I left off, I got it to drop in just as my phone started ringing. Now I need to get it to slide on, so that way the gears mesh up, and we got to make sure these wires don't get tangled up inside. Like so. There we go. I'm going to put a couple of screws on this corner where this roof is flexing, because it is flexing and it's not allowing me to push the motor on. now I can try and get this motor in, and as I'm pushing, this isn't pulling away. So I gotta walk it onto that stud, standoff, whatever you want to call it, to get it to seat. And my fingers are too fat to fit, so I'm going to use a screwdriver to help push. There we go. So now, you see down inside, it's kind of flush. So it finally got on there. Kind of a pain, like most things are in these little houses anymore. So you seem to always have things in the way. But if you have tools, and again, most of the tools you see are kind of piled here. They're just basic tools. You should have some basic tools around your house just for general maintenances. So you probably have screwdrivers and needle nose pliers and wire cutters, and they're not expensive tools. You don't need anything super expensive. On this one, you would need soldering iron, and that's just an unfortunate part. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. So if you don't have one, they're not expensive. You can get some cheap ones on Amazon for less than 20 bucks. They don't have to be super expensive. You don't have to spend $150 on a machine like I have, but you can just get a basic soldering iron. But you would need a soldering iron for this piece. Glue gun. Most of us who work with these little houses have hot glue guns because we're always breaking or making. So super glue always comes in handy. I know some folks use like E9000. I've never had luck with it, so I don't use it. I use Gorilla Glue because that's the one I found that works best for what I do or how I do things. But some screwdrivers always help. This is electronics number 2, and this is a 2.5. And these screws are smaller than a full-size 2, but bigger than an electronics 2, so the 2.5 works pretty good at grabbing the heads and not stripping them out. I believe that is all the screws. This screw, these are for the bottom plate, but we have the standoff, there. And then there's none on this outer lip that we took out. So like this one are for the black bottom plate, and then these two aren't used. So you can kind of see, how close those wires are to the belt. So that's what concerns me. And this tape is torn because it's old. And the tape wasn't on this piece, it's on the back piece, so it's not for me taking it out, it's just old tape. Now we gotta screw the motor down. Now we have the standoffs in. We gotta put in the 3 screws for the motor. Of course, I'm going to use the hand screwdriver. It's a little longer to reach into the depth, and it has a better magnetic tip. So we can get this done. Almost need one of those ergonomic benches since I have to stand up to do this one. So you can kind of see what I'm doing. And gravity helps keep the screw pointed in the right direction. Wrong hole. So this motor plate has multiple holes, but only a couple of them have a standoff. And it's probably because I use it for different things. I just picked the wrong one. It's obvious if the screw just drops in the wrong hole. And done. So, about this piece, of the Mr. Christmas roller coasters, apparently this is the hardest one to fix, if you couldn't tell. And it's a sought after one. It's apparently a favorite of model railroaders because the scale is about the same scale as an HO. So I learned some interesting facts about this piece that's giving me some grief again. Oh, well, that'd be why. It's not quite centered. Where do I need to go? There we go. Let's make sure the other ones are centered. So, but there's the Cyclone, and apparently that one's a lot easier to fix than this one. I'm just going to change it to the other screw, see if I can get a better bite. This one's also hard to get to because you have to go around the plastic and you can't go straight onto it, which is kind of annoying. Come on. All right, let's try this one again. Okay, that one lined up. Hopefully that'll help center the back one. There we go. So yeah, it was because that's about right for HO scale. It looks way bigger in all the videos online than it is. It's actually, you can see it's not very big, which is why it's so fidgety to work on. I don't want to break the characters off either. But it's a pretty strong unit, and the reason I say that is this screw is going to be the death of me. Let's see if I can find a different but same. Some with deeper threads that my screwdriver can grab, and it won't be so tipsy. Because of the angle. The video, like I said, I'm gonna link it below, from Mr. Christmas or Happy Holiday Parts. Same screw, deeper. Yeah, a lot deeper. Like maybe I can actually get it in now. Yeah. No, I'm gonna have to use this so I'm not at an angle. So screws have shallow and deep where the screwdriver bit goes. I'm just gonna change it to a deep one because it's turn it this way. So the screw's right there, and going straight down, you see how it's partially blocked by the plastic? That was my problem. So when I was trying to put it in, the screwdriver was popping out of the head, hence the reason I have to keep pouring the screw out of the bottom. Lots of fun. So we'll just change it to a different depth screw head, make it easier. I'm just checking the alignments. Not really liking the alignments, but they're there. Probably will self-adjust a little bit when it's under motor power. Let's solder the motor on and give it a dry run. But what I was saying about their being durable is, if you watch the video I'm going to link below from Happy Holiday Parts, he actually drops it in the video, and it happens. Your fingers get all greasy, and it didn't break. It's a pretty durable piece, but it's not all plastic. I mean, the tracks are plastic, yes, and they have junctions, but all this These are all metal. Mr. Christmas used a lot of metal, which is good. Gives you some structure. And then the base, even though it's thin, is actually pretty strong because of all of the plastic moldings. These aren't just for prettiness. These are for strength. Oh, and while waiting for my soldering iron to heat up, these are plastic stakes. See how it's melted over? So that's what holds the ticket booth on. They stick it through, and then they usually hit it with a soldering iron or with a flat metal, instead of a soldering tip, a flat metal tip, and it melts them down. It's called plastic staking, and it works. I've re-plastic staked things before on these different houses. I use my soldering iron. It smells horrible. With the standard tip, again, smells horrible. Then I clean the tip off so I can go back to using solder and not having my solder contaminated with the plastic. So I know we marked it. The white goes to the motor. The red goes to the diode stack. But I also know, because of the curvature of the wires, where the wires actually go, because they want to go pretty much where they were originally. But I can't fit my fat fingers in here, so I'm going to use some needle nose, and we're going to solder the white one on real quick. There we go. And now the red one. Oh, and I did pre-tin the wires before I did this. I don't know if you saw it. That way I get a good connection and don't get a weak solder joint like the one diode had. There you go. You see the wire soldered and soldered. And then before I put the bottom on, I am going to glue those and glue these back down, just like that way nothing's in the way. But the next thing I'll do is, before we button it up, is I want to do a dry test to see if the belt is going to have any problems. So, power supply. So if you don't have this and you want to get it, or you have this and you lost your power supply, it is a 6-volt DC 600 milliamp. So if you buy a replacement power supply, make sure it's a 6-volt DC with a minimum output rating of 600 milliamps. You can always go up on milliamps, not down. On voltage, you don't want to do either. Up or down. See, off, plug it in, and here's the lights. I don't know why the sound's not working though. Lights. Well, it's kind of working. I can barely hear it. I wonder if this volume switch has gone out. Should have plugged it in when I got it. So it's not catching any wires, so that's a positive. There you go. So it's basically working. Now I'm going to check the wiring underneath. Make sure nothing got snagged or popped. Broke off. And then I'm going to contact the person that sent it, since I didn't turn it on when I got it, and see if it had sound before they sent it to me. I'm going to get it to the top one more time before I turn it off. That switch here. If it was mine, I wouldn't care about the sound because I don't listen to the sounds. It just plays music. It doesn't do like whee and all that stuff you do on a roller coaster. There we go. Oh, wow. That hits so hard it jumps into the first tooth. I need to take it off before it gets to the bottom. So I'll return in a moment. I'm going to do some inspections and send an email real quick and find out. I figured it was a fully functional unit other than the belt, but I have a problem with the sound. I'm going to double check that and make sure my solder joints are good and it's not, you know, something's not out. Shouldn't be. There we go. All right. I shall return for you in a moment, for me, however long it takes to figure it out or get a response back. We are back with the tornado. It's been 4 months, 5 months since I started the first part of the video. That's how long it's taken to get the parts and the time to tear this thing back apart and rebuild it pretty much from the ground up. So, let me show you what happened. We went ahead and got parts and replaced everything that didn't work. So all the lights work and we got sound again. The two uprights that are lit that were burned out. There's this one and this one. The belt's moving. You can see it right here. Or you can see the wheels right there. I put the cars away 4 months ago. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off some lights. You can see what this looks like in low light. And before I turn off the other one, I want to make sure I know where the switch is I need. Let the camera adjust. And then switch it back. Lights coming back. And we have the volume control. And we have the song selector. So, there we go. So, after nearly 5 months, all the lights are going to come back on here in a second. 1 and 2. So after nearly 5 months, it is now complete. So, here is the other tornado that I took all the parts off of. So this tornado was missing a whole bunch of pieces, but it had the stuff I needed. It had the strips, which you can see are missing, and the circuit board to fix the sound. So here's the base, which has got the characters on it still. So it wasn't a complete unit. It doesn't have a motor, but it had sound and lights. So I took this unit and took the parts out of it, put in that unit. There was a little bit of difficulty, mainly because different years were I guess the easiest way to say is Mr. Christmas contracted out to multiple companies to make the components for them. So this circuit board is different than that circuit board. These lights are soldered differently than those lights. So these here are different than those there. The house, it's the same house, so it goes in that way. But the way it was assembled is this wasn't just screwed, it was also glued in. So there were some variations. Mr. Christmas apparently contracted out to a few different companies, which made things slightly different, and it is what it is. So I have some spare parts that still work, like the sign works and the other lights on those poles work. If somebody has one and they break the track, because these tracks are in sections, they're not supposed to come apart, but here's a section right here, right here. So the tracks are pretty much all the same, because when they're contracted, they have to be. You can see the seam better right there, where they're glued together. But so I wasn't able to fix what it had directly without acquiring a parts piece so I could get it as close as possible. If you have a discerning eye, you would be able to tell the difference in the lights, and mainly it's because of the way they are. So the OEM lights, you can see, are fat and the replacements are thin, two different manufacturers. But when it's on, oops, wrong switch, it's really not noticeable. You just see the orange, which is hard to see because the lights are all back on. So the only thing I need to do to this is put the bottom on. I left the bottom off, which is this plate. Screw that back on, and it is complete. So this is a very tough project. Mr. Christmas, Happy Holiday Parts, they have a video online on how to do this as well. Not quite as in-depth and not as screwed up as this one turned out to be. Not that it's the person's fault. It's just, some of these are easy and some of them are hard. It's just the way it goes. You might have one that you take the bottom off and it takes you 5 minutes to fix it. You're good to go. And then you may have one like this where you got a burned out pole here and a burned out pole there. Oh, now the sound isn't working right. Maybe it's a bad speaker. Maybe it's a bad circuit board. That's the problem. It's a gamble. You roll the dice and either it's easy or, in the case of this one, it's hard and it takes almost half a year. But other than that, she's back together. A little fragile thing that it is. Take your time if you have this and you need to work on it. It is fragile. This is probably the strongest part of the whole unit. Everything else is, except for the metal uprights. But try not to break the glue free where they glued the tops in. When you do this, the tops are soldered to the lattice work or the reinforcement, because that is ground. And then the hots have the wires on the bottom. I'll show you since I don't have it. So you can see where I spliced this one in and put some heat shrink. The other one, the wire wasn't long enough and it's right behind the pole. So you can see there's the board. You can also see it's just got the screws. One screw there, and one's here, and one's here. But there's no glue on it because I'm not going to re-glue the board. It's not necessary. So new drive gears, board, lights, belt being that belt. Yeah. So it is a process. It does take time. Be patient with it. Hopefully you don't take many, many months to do it like this one. This one was because to get this parts piece that is over there now, it took 2.5 months to get it because of the holidays. Because I started this before Thanksgiving. It is now almost April. So a really long time. But as I do let people know, sometimes on broken pieces, like I have one right here that's on this mat, you can see the mat, it caught fire. And I'm working with somebody, we're trying to redesign a circuit board and maybe make it function again. Which in the case would be great, because several of the folks I've talked to real recently, theirs have caught fire too because they plugged in the wrong power supply. It happens. I've also been working with Happy Holiday Parts on making an adapter for the gondola, which you've seen a couple of videos, or if you haven't, I have them on the channel. Once I get the new adapter, I'll make a video on how to install said adapter to make it easier for you at home to purchase said item and install it. So it's been a very busy few months, and unfortunately I did get this around February, the broken one, and I've spent the last week meticulously tearing it back apart to put it back together after my normal job. So when I get home, I'll work on it a little bit, and if I'm tired, I won't touch it at all, because this is a very fragile unit. So just be very careful with what you have. It's a nice unit, kind of neat. I wouldn't personally own it because I'd be afraid of it breaking, and I really don't want to tear it apart again. But that's me. It may not be you. Other than that, I do like it. It is kind of cool to have a little roller coaster that doesn't just go up and then down and back. It goes, does all the little bends and curls, and it's even got the faux guardrails like the real ones do in real life. It doesn't fall off the tracks, but it is kind of a cool piece. I do like the fact that you can select different songs, whether Carnival or Christmas, and you can select if you're signed solid or flashing. You can select how loud you want it. I mean, you have options. It's a very small package. When I saw the pictures of these, I thought they were, huge. These things itty bitty. So, but it is kind of cool. Again, it's not something I would own just because of its frailty. But for those who do own it, I don't wish you any failures, but if you do, hopefully this video helps a little bit. I know it's excessively long. There is another shorter video that Happy Holiday Parts has on their channel. I will link it down below. And between the two, his is pretty basic on what to do. Mine was a little more in depth because his was just a broken gearbox and changing out the belt here. It's a dual-sided keyed belt for the cars. Or mine is broken gearbox, burned out lights, burnt circuit board, and it just stacked up. I know I didn't show you how to do the circuit board. It's not the easiest, and the chances of you getting one is pretty slim, and I'm sorry about that. You can try and get a hold of Happy Holiday Parts. He may have another one, but it's very simple. You just remove the 4 screws, break in the adhesive, and then pull it out. You have to disassemble the entire unit. The other one over here is in massive amounts of pieces because I not only disassembled the unit beyond what I needed, I disassembled it into the smallest components possible so I can store it. So if somebody needs a roof, I get one and it's cracked, or somebody says, hey, my roof split. Hey, I got one. One of those type things. As far as these go, I thought about filming it and I should have, and I apologize. What you do is, I'm not going to, so I don't drop that one. I'm going to grab the pole, since I did separate one of the poles. So this is your pole in here, and it's not the easiest to do, but you have to do it in here. On the back side, you can see we have solder joints here, which is your ground, and you have wires right here. That's your hot. Now, this has got thin double back tape. You can see it's trying to stay. And what you have to do is get that hot and use a solder sucker or a solder wick and move the solder so you can pull out the top. If you can't, you can cut it and just free up the hole so you can stick it back through. Once you do that, this end you got to cut the wire. You can try and desolder it, but you might have a problem. They put glue and stuff on there to help reduce the chance of it arcing. This is the glue on right here, this white stuff. And then you peel it off. Now when you stick it back on, unless you have really thin double back tape, which some folks do, I do, but it's really wide, so I have to trim it really well. I would recommend super glue. Not hot glue, it's too thick. When you squish it down, it's just too thick. Put a very thin bead, and I mean thin, and then just squish it on, and you're good to go. Now you don't always have to. If you put this solder in here and this joint, this wire through here and pull it, it will stay. But if you're concerned about movement or storage, motion in the box, thin layer of super glue. The brush style from Gorilla might work best for you, but if not, you can use the dropper. You can use whatever brand you like. I'd recommend clear, since some glues do dry with a yellowish tinge, although you wouldn't see it against the gold plated or brass upright. But take your time. When you pull these off, you don't want to flex them too much, because if you crack this light anywhere in here, you're going to burn it out. You're going to burn out half of it. You'll break the connection between them on this printed circuit board, because that's what this is. It's just a long printed circuit board with, this one has 1, 2, 3, 7 lights on it. So if you think you can try and pop this out. But if you kind of notice, this one's bent. That was for me wiggling it out when I disassembled this to get it down to a smaller part to fit in one of my storage containers. And that's because it's not screwed in. Even though there's holes in here, it's glued in. So, but, and then again, circuit board, it's got 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. Board sits in there like this. The board I put in, these capacitors were taller. I did have to flex them over a little. See how I can move it? Because it would interfere with when you stick it back in, it would interfere with the roof. So, and the hardest part of this whole thing, which you probably can't tell, but I'll show you. So you have your power port, your music selector, your sign, your on-off switch, your volume, your speaker. If you notice, there's just a couple of wires hanging here. These wires go to said motor. These black and gray wires go to the lights. Same with this gray wire over here, because it's split, because each one of these columns, which is a total of 4 that have lights, is there's a wire that comes off your volume switch right here that's black. That goes to this button. This button is melted into place, meaning they had plastic stakes that it got hot and folded it over. So that's the original button. I didn't change the button because I didn't have a way to re-adhere it securely by remelting the plastic. There'd be no material left. So when you tear it apart, if you have to replace your circuit board, you can just desolder the switches and stuff, or just pull them out carefully and leave the button and then solder back to the button. That song select button is really hard to remove. I might be able to show it. So I'm going to add a little more light. Let me change hands so you can see it better. Or I might just zoom down, actually. That might work if I lower this into the light path. I gotta find my zoom. Here it is. So you see the finger, finger, finger. There's one on the top, so that's the side, that's the bottom, that's the side. And you see how it's all melted? It's because they literally melted the fingers and curled them over the button. So if you were to remelt them, you risk them just breaking off, and then you have a problem. Because if you get any super glue on the moving parts of this button, it'll never work. And if it's stuck in, it won't play right and it'll burn out the sound chip. So unless the button fails, don't screw with the button. That's the simplest way to put it. So because we didn't need that light. But there you go. That would be the Tornado with some massive problems, I guess you could call it, because the repair is excessively long. Part of that would be just getting the parts. But any questions, comments, put them below. I try and answer them as fast as I can. But that concludes the thing. I'm sure you know how to put this on. It's just the screws. It's got, what, 6 of them. And then she's done. It's just, I forgot to get the screws out of the baggie that's in the box here. Oops, the baggie's still in the box. But, yep, put those on. And, oh, yeah, one last thing I do. That rear railing. You can see all the holes right here. And I see that under the bag with the screws. So I got to glue the railing on, too. So, not a problem. Then she's done. Again, I'm sure you know how to do some gluing. We all do. If you do anything in this hobby, super glue, E6000 or E9000. Anyway, adhesives are very popular. till the next one, thanks for watching, and we shall return with another piece.